Hello, and welcome to their Dokkan battle video. In this video, we're going to be taking on the final few stages of the Namek Goku EZA. Now, there's a lot of controversy around this particular unit because a lot of people don't really feel like he's all that good. And me personally, I feel like he's fine. There are definitely a few things that I would have liked to see them do with him. Mainly bumping up his chance of getting his guard when he actually is transformed. And maybe just a little bit more stats in his base form that he could transfer over to his transformed state, because I feel like it's a little weird that he's only still able to stack defense after transforming. So for those a few turns, you're kind of just building up stats that just disappear the second he transforms, which is like fine, but at the same time I really wish they would have done a little bit more with him. I have seen a lot of his numbers. They end up looking really solid. Definitely not high enough to the point where you're going to be safe against some of the strongest fights in the game, but also you should be alright to at least take normal attacks from the majority of characters. So, and that's really the most you can really ask for nowadays in terms of units, because there's so few characters that can actually eat super attacks from the strongest fights in the game. And while that is definitely an issue, I don't think, like, for this Namek Goku, I don't feel like that was supposed to be his role. His role is to basically build up in slot 2 and guard against normals, basically to be a slot 2 kind of guy, not really something that's going to be slot 1 in there going to town, like, because all the partners that you'd want to run this guy with are supposed to be slot 1 characters. The only one who isn't is Namek Goku, who is supposed to be like this weird slot 1-ish character, but for the most part I feel like they did an alright job with this guy. I saw a lot of like people calling for him to get buffed before he even released, and I don't feel like he needed all that. Maybe just an additional little bit of defense in both of his forms, but it's neither here nor there. We do have his EZA in the game already, and it doesn't look like he's getting buffed anytime soon. So they did do that to STR Vegito Blue. His data was already in the game before they buffed him, so technically it is possible for them to retroactively change it, but I don't think they're going to at all. This EZA is weak to full power. I personally despise this category, mainly because as I've mentioned before, it took me until this celebration to get any copies of Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Goku, who is the pretty much only leader for this team. I don't know why they haven't made a new Full Power leader since 2018 with Full Power Broly from Dragon Ball Super. I don't, like, it doesn't make any sense to me why that's a thing, because I feel like Full Power as a team is something that they've really, like, neglected. Like, there's not a lot of characters on this team that I would consider good, right? There are some, they do exist. Full Power Frieza, very good. AGL Golden Frieza is good. I think Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Goku is good, but like it's super top heavy, so like the literal structure of the team doesn't really fit well, mainly because you have 2 Saiyan leaders when the majority of the team is like comprised of Frieza characters, a few Saiyans, and a just kind of random assortment of characters. Full Power was a team that came out during Dokkan's era of being very like non-descriptive with their category names, and really started leaving out a lot of characters. It was this really terrible time in terms of making sure that all the characters can be on a category. It was really just awkward when you had characters that would very clearly be using their full power, but Dokkan just didn't count it as being at full power, so it just ended up being a really wank and jank category that is not very good and really could use a lot of help. It does seem like we're going to be getting a lot more help for this team going forward in terms of like the new movie, the anime coming back, stuff like that. So I would assume that we're going to get some buffs for this category. I really hope it would, because it desperately needs some help. As you can see, we don't even have enough AGL options that are extreme class to even do enough damage to like one-shot this Goku. So it's really lame. And if you wanted to use the whole extreme team, You could technically attempt to do one with LR Football Frieza as your leader, and just putting in a bunch of like the sworn enemy characters in here, because you do have things like Int Cell and like the every golden Frieza, and just all Friezas in general. Like majority of them are on this category, so like you can kind of make your way around that, and that might work a little bit better because you'll have 2 type advantage leaders. But I've just been kind of chilling with this team so far. I don't know how to feel about this guy, like me personally, because like I'm going to use him. I have him rainbowed. I have a very interesting build for him where I have basically an equal amount of dodge and additional, because before he was really weak and I wanted him to at least have a chance of dodging so he doesn't just take a bunch of damage and then die, right? So that's kind of what I'm running on him. It's like, I believe it's like 17 additional, 13 dodge, which is like not the most in the world, but I feel like it should help him be a little more consistent. Plus a lot of the dodge is coming from equipment that gives dodge and defense, so I feel like that little extra bit of defense is going to really help him in the long run. This guy definitely wants just completely full additional. Like his damage isn't like the craziest. Like he can do some really solid damage in both Super Saiyan 1 and in base form, but like that's not what he's here to do. He's not here to be a gigaton bomb. Like he can definitely hit pretty hard. Like I've seen his base form hit for about like 8.7 on like a good turn, but you really just want him there so that he doesn't die and can link well with the rest of the characters that are on the team. But man, ECA units nowadays don't ever really feel like crazy like they used to, because back like even like a year ago when we were still getting the 120% leads, you would see that an EZA was in the news and you'd be like, oh, they're probably going to be crazy. But I feel like it started around AGL Rose, where we started getting a real big dip in the quality of EZA characters, because Physical Vegito Blue, AGL Rose's counterpart, was like crazy on release. He could quad super, he would stack defense, he would crit on everything. He was really good for a really long time. AGL Rose came out and he was very lackluster. He didn't really perform very well ever. And then the majority of the 120% leads, mainly the Gojitas, or Gogeta, Janemba, Super Saiyan 3 Broly, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, and Ant Kid Buu, really were just mid, I would say, because like they didn't really feel too different from their counterparts before. Like for instance, like the main thing that people had a problem with was STR Janemba being comparable to Int Janemba, who was many years older. And people felt like that was just basically a slap in the face, and I feel like that kind of trend continued. People are really buying into the idea that there's like 2 teams working on Dokkan and designing units. One team actually designing the really cool broken characters like Merge Zamasu and LR Goku Black and Zamasu, and then you got the other team of developers that made it Golden Frieza and Raditz, and units that are supposed to be good and cool, but were very clearly not tested enough. So you can tell that like they didn't really try hard enough to make those characters really good. And that is upsetting, because like when these EZAs drop and they're not insanely good, it pretty much kills the unit for the rest of its lifetime, because as of right now there is no sign that any units are going to get buffed past getting an EZA. I personally think that they should revamp old EZAs by making it so that if you get to a high enough stage, maybe like stage 100 on an EZA, then you'll get a special equipment for that character that gives them more stats and maybe like some additional and some crit, like a gold equipment. So not only would you have to have dupes of this old character, but you would have to like really try to get this equipment, make it like actually worth grinding these EZAs. Because of right now, past stage 30, all you guys get is Zenny, and while that's great and it's a nice farming method, that's not enough of an incentive, I think, to actually warrant going through all of these stages and doing them. So I think maybe giving like a nice little gold equipment that'll help buff up a unit. Like for instance, like AGL Super Saiyan 3 Goku, one of the first EZAs in the game, if he got an equipment that made it so that he got like an extra 3,000 to all stats and like 5 crit, would anyone really complain? Like, he's terrible. Like, maybe it'd have to be more than just like flatline stats. Maybe it would have to be like something a bit crazier for those really old characters. Maybe like they would get like percentage based stuff, and then once you get to these better characters, actually it probably would stay percentage based, because if they did it now, that means we're probably not going to see like, say, Namek Gokus for another like 4 years. So he might actually genuinely need the extra, maybe like 50% to all stats plus 5 additional. Or like they could like really tailor it to certain things. Maybe like they give like stuff where who's a character they released with guard? STR Ultimate Gohan. Maybe they buff his guard chance to basically guarantee it after you get this equipment. Like you get extra defense and guaranteed guard now, and maybe like an additional chance to super attack on his like passive. Like make it like a second mini EZA, kind of like what Dragon Ball Legends does with their platinum equips. Like have a second system to make sure that these units can stay relevant, so that way people can use the units that they actually like using. I don't feel like people would be too upset with that. Maybe if like they made the characters too good, but people would be like, oh, it's not free to play friendly because you need dupes. But like a lot of the characters that have EZA'd already are so old and have been on so many banners that you should probably have a copy or two, unless you're like me and for some reason you've just never been able to pull one, like with Tech Super Saiyan 4. But I don't know, that's just some thoughts about how they could probably change the EZA system, because it's already great. I just feel like they need to make it a little better so that these units don't die off after their EZA. Anyway, that was pretty much the entirety of the EZA. I didn't really have too much trouble with it. You guys should be fine as long as you have some solid AGL units that are on the category. It is good enough for that to work. Anyway, I'm going to EZA him and record a video about him a little bit later today. Let me know how you guys feel about him in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.